My name is Nadeem Khan. I was born in 1968 in Karachi, Pakistan. I immigrated to the US with my parents in 1985. I joined the US Army in 1987. I got married in 1994. We have 3 boys and a girl. My interest in religion grew after I got married and had children. However, it was the tragic events of 9/11 that truly pushed me to study Islam in depth. I was born and raised a Muslim, yet I was never taught the things the media began claiming about Islam, that it was the root cause of terrorism. Confused and disturbed, I decided to leave my job and dedicate a year to studying the Quran for myself. What I discovered changed my life. Through my studies, I realized that the Quran is more than just a religious book. It is a deep reflection on human psychology and social dynamics. It emphasizes building a society based on freedom, justice, and equality for all. It doesn't just tell us what to do, it diagnoses our spiritual and moral struggles and offers guidance to overcome them. The Quran teaches us how to respond to life's challenges with patience, wisdom, and compassion, often through stories of past prophets and civilizations. It enabled me to unbiasedly recognize good and bad regardless of their sources. For example, in Surah An-Nisa, chapter 4, verse 105, the Quran defends a falsely accused Jewish man of theft done by a Muslim. Surprisingly, the Quran speaks very little about Prophet Muhammad himself. So I also studied his life. What I found was profound. Prophet Muhammad stood firmly against oppression and dedicated his life to building a just, inclusive, and peaceful society using the very principles found in the Quran: freedom of choice and equality. Today, I find the core values of America: freedom of speech, equality before the law, and the right to choose one's path, remarkably aligned with Quranic teachings. I don't say this lightly. My life in the United States has not always been easy. After a layoff in 2010, my family lost everything. We were forced to relocate and start over. Worse still, as a Muslim in post 9/11 America, I faced harassment and discrimination. I was stopped and questioned at airports, at work, and even at home. During one trip, I was arrested and handcuffed in front of my family. In another incident, I was locked in a cell and chained to a bench. These were dark times, but I share these experiences not to gain sympathy, but to show that my respect for America is not based on an idealized version of life here. I have lived through injustice, and yet I am still proud to call this country my home, because, despite its flaws, the Constitution still protects the rights of all people, and that is worth defending. As a veteran of the US Armed Forces, I took an oath to defend those values. As a Muslim, I see no contradiction in that. In fact, the Quran motivates me to protect the Constitution and to stand up for freedom and justice, not just for Muslims, but for everyone. In addition to my friends and family, I owe my appreciation to many people who helped me throughout my life. Hindus from South India helped us when we first moved to New York. Early in my IT career, a Jewish individual helped me learn technology. I survived my time in the US Army because of my caring command and good Christian friends. Many others who helped me learn the profession, ethics, morality, relationships, religion, etc. I'm not a scholar, My goal is not to preach or to discredit anyone's beliefs, nation, or school of thought. I simply want to share what I've found in the Quran, its wisdom and relevance for our lives today as Americans. Just as the Quran was originally revealed in plain, simple Arabic dialect of the Bedouins on the outskirts of Mecca so that everyone could understand it, I believe it can and should be presented in clear, accessible English for today's diverse society. The Quran is meant for all times and all places. That means its interpretation must consider changing social contexts. At the same time, understanding the Quran deeply requires familiarity with the culture and language of its original audience. It was revealed in a tribal society without centralized government or modern institutions. But its message transcends that context. We must separate the eternal message from its cultural packaging in order to see its true universality. One of the clearest signs of the Quran's timeless nature is how it was revealed to Prophet Muhammad in response to real-life challenges. The order of revelation reflected the events he was going through. The version we have today is divinely rearranged because no one after the Prophet will live his exact life. The Quran uses stories not to provide historical details, but to convey principles. For example, the escape of Prophet Moses from Egypt and the migration of Prophet Muhammad from Mecca are very different in detail, but the core message, escaping oppression to build a peaceful community, is the same. So, how do we follow the Prophet today? By understanding the Quran's principles and applying them wisely to our circumstances. For example, in an office with central heating and air conditioning, wearing leather socks to follow a prophetic tradition may not be beneficial practically or religiously. The goal is to preserve the essence of the message, not to imitate historical details blindly. In sharing my journey, I hope to encourage others, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, to read the Quran with fresh eyes. It is not a relic of the past, but a guide for building a more just, free, and compassionate world. Let's study it not only to connect with God, but also to connect with one another and to protect the values that make our society worth living in.